Well, I have the pleasure of being joined today by my friend and former boss, former Falcons head coach, 2008 AP NFL Coach of the Year. How about this one? 2008, 2010, 2012 Sporting News NFL Coach of the Year. My friend, Michael Smith. Mike, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for having time to join me today.
I'm doing great, Mike, and I'm looking forward to having a football talk. It's been a while since we've had a football chat, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, except for maybe a college all-star game or two.
Yeah, that's right. We have our yearly meeting and all-star game there in Orlando. Looking forward to seeing you in January.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I always enjoy that. So let's talk about the three teams, the NFL teams. I did this with Norv Turner the other day. Three NFL teams that you coached for. Where we met, you were the DC of the Jaguars for Jack Del Rio. I was a tight end assistant head coach. We worked together for a couple of years. That was a lot of fun. We had a good time. They're 3-1. They have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. They're off to a really good start. The Atlanta Falcons, of course, which we just talked about. You were the head coach there. Uh, and we worked together. I was your offensive line coach actually in 2014. They have Michael Penix Jr. as their quarterback. They're off to a good start. They're 2-2. Norv Turner was very high on Michael. And then the last team is the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they're 3-1 right now, of course, with Baker Mayfield, the quarterback. Talk on those three teams or any of those teams that you think are off to a good start and tell us why.
Okay, Mike. I'm really excited about the NFL season, as you know, and we always tried to break down the teams, break down the seasons, and we used to break it down into quarters. I know working with Brian Billick, you know that we try to be very systematic about how we approach it. So they're through the first four games now. And the thing I like about the Jags is they got them a signature win yesterday or this week against the 49ers, and they found a way to win. They were creating touchdowns uh, by returning punts. They just did a great job. They're 3-1, and I think that they have shown through these first four games that they're going to be a ball hawking defense. They're +9,
Plus
which
nine, unbelievable. Yeah.
which is leading the NFL. And as you know, Mike, there's some things that we look at that are really important, and turnover ratio is one of them. They're doing a good job keeping people out of the end zone. They're ranked fifth in points allowed at 18 per game, and they're ranked fifth in red zone efficiency at 44%. So those statistics there tell you that they're playing good football and they are enhancing their chances to win. They're running the ball efficiently on offense. They're fourth in the league, averaging 144 yards per game, and they're doing a great job stopping the run. They're only giving up 82.8 yards. And Mike, all those numbers, you know what that means?
Yeah.
It's a great formula for winning football at any level.
It is. It really is. And I'm so glad to hear you talk about that turnover ratio because that's one of the key things I talk about in our later segment. Every week I update the fans on what's going on in turnover ratio. So that's a good one.
Yeah, and as you know, Mike, if you win the turnover ratio, you're going to win the game a large percentage of the time. I don't know what the statistics are now. It used to be if you win by two, you're almost 80% going to win the football game.
Well,
And
look at last, Mike. Just look at, not to interrupt, but look at last week. I track every week for our fans in our last segment. 11-1. The teams were last year that were +1 in the turnover ratio. 11-1. It's amazing.
yeah, it really is. And some things change in the NFL, but that turnover ratio number is going to probably stay pretty consistent. And the Jaguars, they got a first-year head coach in Liam Cohen, and he's done a great job with the new GM James Gladstone, who comes out of the Rams family, of rebuilding their roster, and they've got the talent to make some noise in the AFC South. I really believe that, and I got to give kudos They're doing some, they're doing some things offensively, but I got to give kudos to their defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanelli, who joined the staff from the Green Bay Packers, and he's made a very strong first impression through the first 4 games for me. I
Yeah.
really like the Jaguars
Yeah,
this.
I could tell. Yeah, I do too. I know that my son Nate is a huge fan of Trevor Lawrence's. So, what do you think about the Falcons, the Falcapones, and the Bucks?
Well, you know, the Falcons are 2-2.
Right.
Yes, and the thing I'm concerned a little bit about is they're 0-2 within the division, which
Mhm. Yeah.
Mike, early in the season when you have your games against opponents in your division, they are count 1.5 in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be problematic as we go down the season because the tiebreakers, first thing they do is they prioritize to head records,
Right.
followed by that, then it's wins within the division. And then it's records against common opponents. And both of the losses that we already mentioned have been to division opponents.
Yeah.
There was a head scratching loss. I don't know how the Falcons don't win that game against Carolina. Carolina is one of the bottom feeders this year in
Yeah.
the NFL.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I really like second year quarterback Michael Penix. And I like the pass rushers that they added in the draft.
Yeah, they did a good job with those young
Yeah,
guys. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jalen Walker and James Pierce, they're both going to be really good players. And we know, having been with the Falcons, we've always been looking for pass rushers. Everybody's looking for pass rushers in this league. And they've been trying to address it really hard, really since John Abraham left 6 or 7 years ago. This Michael Penix, I love him.
Yeah, everybody does. Norv loved them last week too.
Yeah. Well, I I recruited his dad to Tennessee Tech. He was a
Oh, is
running
that
back
right?
at Tennessee Tech. So uh, I was a coaching on the defensive side, but uh, he was a great running back, great young man. And I've had a chance to visit with Michael Penix Jr. and he hadn't fall far from the tree.
He's a
With
big kid. He's a big kid too.
Yeah, he is. He is, I like his stature in the pocket. He's got some ability to run with the ball as well. But, he's only started 10 starts in the NFL at this point. And there's going to be some head scratching throws and decision making questions throughout the early part of this season. I really believe that. And I'm hoping that that was something to do with the game against the Panthers. But I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. He was great at the University of Washington. He was great at Indiana, where he's played college ball as well. And he's their guy. They've made the commitment. They put the veteran guy on the bench last year after 10 games, and they're giving him the opportunity to run this team.
Yeah, he throws BBs now. His ball comes out sharp and quick, and it gets there very, very fast. I really like. He reminds me a little bit of Boomer Esiason when Boomer came out.
Is that
That lefty, that big lefty that throws those BBs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I imagine he was a pretty good pitcher on the baseball field too in
yeah,
his
yeah,
younger day.
yeah.
He probably had a lot of Ks, but and I really like some of the other players that the Falcons have as well. I really, really like Bijan Robinson.
Oh wow, he's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mike, we talk off record all the time about, this guy, that guy, this position. He's like the queen on the chessboard. You can put him in any place. You can move him out of the backfield, and he can play the wide receiver position. He's a guy that defensive coordinators lose sleep over in terms of their preparation. So
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a playmaker, and he does do a great job going out slot, going out wide, playing that receiver role. He is some gifted athlete, Mike.
I agree, and they really made a good choice and a hit on him. But I do have some concerns. They had a great bounce back win against the Washington Commanders last week. And this week they're going to get a chance to see what they can do with the league's best with the Buffalo Bills. So uh, I do have some concerns though, Mike, in watching and following the Falcons. I have concerns that Bijan is their leading receiver. Penix has yet to throw a touchdown pass until this last week to a tight end or a wide receiver. They got to get those tight ends and wide receivers, which Drake London is a good player. They've got some really good players in the wide receiver position. They got to get them involved in the passing game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, tell me about the last one, Tampa Bay Bucks, with a guy that I just shake my head and smile about because he plays the game the right way, with Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
Well, Baker Mayfield has re-energized his career. He did it with the Rams for a little bit, and then the Bucks were smart enough to say, "Hey, this guy still has something left in the tank," and they brought him along. They brought him in, and he's done a great job. I think he's turned out to be a very efficient quarterback in the NFL. And I believe that they're the team to beat in the NFC South. I think there's no doubt that they're the number one team, and they and the Falcons will probably be duking it out to see who's going to win that NFC South. Right now the Bucks, though, they're missing some very important pieces on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And they're getting one back though, and I think it's going to be a big jolt. I'm really high on Chris Godwin. He returns from a major injury with his ankle last year, and right now the Bucks are one of the worst teams in terms of injuries. They've got a lot of injuries, and there's a
Yeah.
couple other teams that we're going to talk about that are having the injury bug as well. You got to work yourself through it, and I think they're starting to get on the other side of it, and they're going to be a great team. And
Yeah,
I
they got Tristan Wirfs back. I know he was out for a little bit, and then I think they lost Gadecki, the other tackle. I don't know how long he's out, but there's been a lot of, and that's a whole nother subject we can talk about on another day. But there's been a rash of injuries across the league, boy. It's been terrible.
Yes, it sure has, Mike. We've got to, as football guys, we've got to be thinking about ways that we can protect our players better. I know they've done rule changes in terms of working in pads and how often they do that. We've got to make the game safer. And I'm sure that's something that every year is at the top of the list of Commissioner Goodell and the people at the league office and the committees that they have. We've got to make the game safer. And if not, it's gonna be hard to finish seasons with with certain teams if they keep having the injury bug. But
I agree. Let's move off your old teams and talk about what your specialty is. 4 games in, and there's a few good ones out there, and one of the good ones gives up too many points. That's the Browns. Talk about a couple of the top defenses that you have your eye on so far after 4 games.
well, Mike, it's really through 4 games, it's a small sample, so it's really hard to say what is it going to look like at the end of the season. But thus far, the NFL is still a passing league.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to affect the quarterback. So I'm excited about the teams that have been able to put pressure on the quarterback. And the top 5 sack teams in the league right now are the Denver Broncos with 15, followed by Detroit, the LA Raiders, and the Pittsburgh Steelers with 14. So they're getting after the quarterback. And when you affect that quarterback, you got a better chance of winning it. And then you've got to also look at the quarterback ratings, I think, and how those defenses are playing. And I was surprised, Jacksonville, and it may be uh, because of who they've played. They're the number one. They got the best or the lowest quarterback rating at 69 in the league. So they're doing a good job against the quarterbacks that they've played in the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, I love to hear that from a defensive guy because I look at it, from a different standpoint. I look at red zone scoring touchdowns, and my number one thing, though, and so it was Brian's as well, and all the guys I've had on, Pete Carroll. Everybody talks about the turnovers, and I'm just hoping the fans out there believe that. Hey, listen, we're saying this. We're coaches. We've done this. We've been down this road. We know that you give those guys another chance, you're screwing yourself. You gotta maintain possession of the football, and you gotta create those turnovers and get an extra possession.
Absolutely, Mike. And most games in the NFL continue to be one score games more than you think. There's very few blowout games when you look at it, and that's what the NFL wants is they want parity. They want two or three really good teams at the top of the pyramid. And then at the bottom of the pyramid, they don't want any more than three or four bad teams. And then the other 24 teams are you mix them up and you don't know what you're going to get. And that's why it's so exciting on Thursday nights, Sundays, Monday nights, almost every night of the week.
Yeah.
Now you get a chance to watch football games.
And two on Monday nights, and then Europe, but that's an interesting thing. They're talking about the games finishing late. There was a record set, and I can't remember off the top of my head. It's the most games won late in the fourth quarter, with the late score inside. I want to say inside of 3 minutes or something. Since 1991, through three games. Now we're through four games now, but through three games, there was some bizarre statistic of how many games. So I said to the fans last week, "Don't turn your TV off, man. This thing ain't over, baby."
No, it's not over until the fat lady sings, like some great coach named John Madden used to say. It's not over till the fat lady sings, and uh, that's what the league wants. They want close games, and that's happening for the most part this season. But there are some concerns that I have, and when we talk later on, I think we're going to talk about some of the teams that aren't doing too well
Yeah.
about their points differentials, and I think it's going to be very, very hard for those teams to get out of their uh, hole
Whole.
that they've dug
Yeah.
in the first four games.
So we're talking about late wins, and over the last couple of weeks, it's been just bizarre to me as a former coach and a former special teams player. But the special teams plays, I was at the Raider game live last week, 25-24 score, and they're lining up I stand up, they're lining up right in front of us. To kick the game winning, possibly the game. There was 33 seconds left, so you never know. Possibly the game winning field goal, and it gets blocked. Another block kick in the fourth quarter. You have Philadelphia, who came off a game where they blocked two kicks, one for a touchdown to win a game 2 weeks ago, and they block another punt and return it for a touchdown against the Bucks, and the Bucks lose 31-25. So there's the difference in the scoring. And then you have a kid named Marcus Jones who's been in the league a couple of years. Punt return yardage, 167 yards with an 80-something yard touchdown. What the heck is going on with special teams?
Mike, I wish I could give you an answer to that, but 16 blocked kicks in the first 4 weeks. I don't think you could probably look. I haven't looked at the statistics, but I bet there's not been 16 blocked kicks in a season in the last 5 years.
Can I pose this question to you, Mike? Because I have playing that wing and that end position for many years as a backup tight end. So I was a backup tight end for 14 years. So I played end and wing for 14 years. That was one of your roles. I hated every minute of it. Especially when you were the double bump guy. One guy was hitting you on the inside shoulder, one guy was hitting you on the outside shoulder.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this question. Do you feel that the lack of contact and the lack of full padded practices in training camp, it has affected some of that field goal protection, because it's not live. It's like you're in your underwear, you're in your shorts, You do the steps, you do the stats, but there's no live rush. I think there's something, I don't know, I'm just saying this, something to be said about practicing field goal in shorts. Do you feel that I'm crazy on that, or is there anything to that?
Mike, I think there's a lot to that. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but do we ever really do a live field goal block and field goal protection? We may be live sometimes in the middle if guys are a little weak and we feel like we're a little soft, but that double bump, which it is a skill set that is not easy to do when you're double bumping, when you have two guys, one coming on your inside shoulder, one coming around the outside. How often do we really do that live? That you posed a great question. I'm sure that through the league this this early season, there's more live work going on special teams than there ever has been, because it has been the difference in many games. And we used to say, it was guys would say it was coach speak about how much effect the special teams have on the game. And people even maybe thinking, well, they've changed the rules of in special teams where they're de-emphasizing the kickoff and things like that. You got a great point, but we definitely have a problem, and I know that. And as you know, the special teams guys, it's a cult. They'll get together and they'll get this thing figured out,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
right?
they have to, because it's just ruining, and then you hear what's his name? I'm losing my mind here. The coordinator for that my brother John played with in New Orleans. He was a coach there. The coordinator for Philadelphia saying the kicking game has changed because they're allowing them to use the kicking balls all week in practice.
Yeah, I
Who
saw
was that?
Coach.
Vic Fangio.
Yeah,
Vic.
Coach Fangio. Vic was trying to figure out how these guys are kicking the ball further, and he hypothesizes that that they're not changing the balls out. That we used to only kick with brand new balls that were in control of the of the NFL, and then now under the new guidelines, I think that those kicking balls are in for at least 4 games.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's insinuating that there's something going on. I'm not sure what it is, or maybe the balls are easier to kick as they get older and get more kicks on them. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
he was really trying to hit on that, but the kickers are much better. They're more
Wow.
accurate. They can kick the ball. There's going to be a
Oh,
75-yard field goal before we know it.
it's crazy. So I'm going to finish up with one thing. As a former head coach, you have a couple of teams, 3 teams now that are behind it, and you alluded to it earlier, at 0-4. Of course, you have the Titans with the rookie quarterback. You have the Jets, who just continue to shoot themselves in the foot with turnovers, turning the ball over on the 1 yard line. Uh, and then the last team you have are the Saints, the Aints, who actually looked a little bit better last week, I thought, and gave Buffalo a little bit of run for their money. But what's your message, Mike, as the leader of an 0-4 team, when all the kids are reading the same stuff we're reading, and how impossible it is to get to the playoffs with an 0-4 start? What's your message in the locker room or the team meeting, Mike?
Well, Mike, before I talk about the message, I need to probably just get everybody a little history lesson, because there's only been one NFL team that has started the season 0-4 and made the playoffs
Chargers.
in the history of the league.
Chargers. Who is
19,
it?
1992, San Diego Chargers
Yep.
started the season 0-4, and then they went on that historic run where they won 11 of their 12 final games to make the postseason. It's only happened one time, Mike, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of teams that have started 0-4. So you can't sit there and tell your team, look at history, because if you look at history, you're going to sit there and go, well, we're screwed, right? So my approach would be we got to be honest and direct with each other. We have not played well in the first four games, and do a deep dive into the coaching, into the playing of the game, into the setup of how you're feeding them, what you're doing. You need to take a deep dive, and you got to figure out everything that you feel that you're doing the right way, and look at things that you have concerns about and maybe change it up a little bit. You've got to focus and do whatever you can to get that first win,
Yeah.
because if each week that burden of getting that first win is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh,
So that's what I would do in most NFL games. This is where I have a little bit of issue about these three teams that we're talking about that are 0-4. Most NFL games are determined by a handful of critical play that make the difference in getting the results, or of a win or a loss. And this year, through the first four games, the three teams that we're talking about, the points differential, the Jets points differential is 20.5, New Orleans is 21.0, and Tennessee's 16. So there's two of the three that are averaging getting beat by three scores. There needs to be a real deep dive in those organizations to try to figure this out, because it's going to be really hard not only to come from an 0-4 start, but to come from an 0-4 start where you're getting beat by almost three touchdowns.
yeah, where it's not a game. Oh, if we'd have
Yeah,
done this, we'd have won. Oh God, if we didn't give them that punt return of 30 yards, yeah, no, it's terrible. It's awful.
it is. And so I mean, I feel for all the people in those organizations, because it's hard. If you go and you've played four games and you're getting beat by three touchdowns every game, there's not a lot of hey there's not a lot of hope down the road.
Yeah,
So they've got to do a deep dive, and they need to make sure and be honest throughout the entire organization, and they need to change it up because it's not working.
it's not working. Yeah, I remember starting out as a head coach, young head coach, 2002, and we were not getting our butts kicked by three touchdowns. At least I remember it that way. And we started out 0-6, but fortunately we went on a run and won, a number of games in a row. I think we actually turned it around and won six in a row. But wow, it's an awful thing walking into that first team meeting on Wednesday and all right, what's the message now, boss? They're looking at you for some leadership and some direction. So, well,
Yeah. Yeah, and Mike, I think it's definitely an uphill battle, and it would be a great story to see the second team in the history of the NFL that started 0-4 to go on and have a winning season.
yeah, I'm looking at the teams that are on four, and I think that might be a little tough.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jets right now, their differential is 20.5 points per game, and New Orleans is 21 and Tennessee's 16. So
Oh yeah, and the turnovers. I mean, I don't have the number in front of me, but the Jets are like atrocious. The Jets are -7 in the turnover ratio, and we started the show talking about that, and that's the worst in the league. So that's going to make it hard. So hey, listen, I enjoyed, as the kids say, I enjoyed chopping it up with you today. I think the fans are going to enjoy listening to our interview, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Mike, always fun to talk with you, talking ball.
All right, man.
You got such a great wealth of knowledge about the NFL, not only as a coach, but as a great player. Even though you spent most of your time, you made the point that you were the wing on the field goal team. Mike, you were a good tight end.
Well, thanks, Mike. But listen. I tell people, you are on special teams and you're a backup when you're a tight end and you had 11 career kick returns. That means I was in the wedge a lot of years. I got a lot of squibs.
Yep.
All
You
right, Mike. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
all right. You take care, Mike.
Talk to you down the road.
All right, buddy.